My best friend blamed me for breaking her up with the school bully and reported me for cheating on the college entrance exam. My scores were invalidated. She got into Peking University as she'd hoped, and she cut ties with me. Many years later, when she returned to her alma mater as an outstanding graduate to give a speech, I hid in a corner and watched her from afar. When I saw the huge backdrop behind her come crashing down, I instinctively ran toward her. As excruciating pain swept through my body and my consciousness began to fade, I let go of her hand, which I had been clutching tightly. This is the last time. If there's a next life, I won't help you again. Later, we really did get reborn together. And she and the school bully were madly in love. Skip class to go to a concert. Use a self-criticism speech under the national flag as an opportunity to declare your love. Their love was passionate and uninhibited. As for me, I followed the advice from my past life, kept my distance from Su Jia, and focused on my studies. She mocked me, saying, "You're just stupid. No matter how hard you study, you'll never get into Tsinghua or Peking University, just wasting your youth." Carrying with her memories of the college entrance exam from her past life, she dreamed of succeeding both academically and romantically. With 100 days to go until the college entrance exam, Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan started dating. The photo of them kissing on the rooftop in the rain went viral throughout the entire school. Su Jia pinned Song Jiangchuan down on an old, discarded desk and stood on tiptoe to kiss the boy, whose ears were bright red. She moved very quickly. She was reborn yesterday and confessed her feelings today, as if she were afraid someone would stop her again. I gave a self-deprecating chuckle to myself and buried my head in my vocabulary book. The students around me were whispering to one another, and the flutter of youthful excitement, masked by the sound of reading, gradually filled the entire classroom. The classmate sitting in front of me kept turning around and casting admiring and envious glances at Su Jia, who was sitting next to me. She propped her textbook upright and hid her phone underneath it while chatting with Song Jiangchuan. Her eyes are bright, her cheeks are rosy, and when the conversation gets lively, she can't help but burst out laughing. After doing this a few times, I frowned, feeling a bit impatient. If you want to have fun, go out and do it. Didn't bother others. Su Jia glanced up at me and snorted dismissively. It's not like you haven't learned this before. What's the point of putting on such a show? She paused for a moment, as if something had occurred to her, then deliberately added, "Don't worry. As long as you don't break any rules on the college entrance exam, you're sure to get into college this time." I clenched the book between my teeth, and as I recalled the events of my past life, my heart ached as if pierced by a needle, and I found it hard to breathe. In my previous life, after finishing the English exam, I told Su Jia that I hadn't stopped writing immediately after the bell rang. She didn't say anything at the time, but a few days later, I was notified that my English test score had been invalidated. Someone reported me for cheating on an exam, and the only person who knew about this and who also knew my exam registration number was Su Jia. At the time, I ran over to confront her, and she smiled even more sarcastically than she does now. "You're allowed to expose my early romance, but I'm not allowed to expose your rule-breaking. Han Shuang, you owe me one." During the final semester before the college entrance exams, Su Jia was being harassed by Song Jiangchuan, and she complained to me that it was affecting her studies. At the time, I didn't realize she was just showing off to me, so I told her mom, hoping to help her. As a result, her mother went to Song Jiangchuan's house, forcing him to transfer schools, and he eventually fell in love with someone else. I never expected her to hold a grudge against me because of that, nor did I expect that, in her eyes, my future would be less important than her love. I suppressed the wave of bitterness welling up inside me and carefully committed the words from my textbook to memory. It was my fault that I cheated on the exam in my past life, and it was also my fault that I trusted the wrong person. I admit to both. In this life, I must study even harder to make up for my past regrets. Su Jia was still chatting, her fingers flying across the screen of her phone. The book in front of her was covered with dense notes on the left and completely blank on the right. Since her rebirth, she hasn't attended a single class or taken a single set of notes. She was completely devoted to Song Jiangchuan. She even faked an illness to take a day off school to celebrate his birthday with him and skipped class to watch him play basketball. She even folded paper stars and wrote love letters for him during class. The homeroom teacher caught him and warned him twice, but it didn't help at all. Su Jia's textbooks were getting cleaner and cleaner, while the people around her were becoming more and more complicated. She no longer spent all day sitting at her desk studying. She much preferred leaning on the railing in the hallway and chatting with a group of people. Her school uniform hung loosely on her, the zipper open, revealing the limited edition trendy brand with a huge logo she was wearing underneath. As for Song Jiangchuan, he would bring her snacks and milk tea during breaks, and the two of them would banter playfully while basking in the sun. Su Jia's face was bathed in sunlight, looking relaxed and gently, a stark contrast to her classmates in the classroom, who were poring over practice problems with grim determination. As I was walking by on my way to get water, her new friends called out to me, with their arms around each other's shoulders. They asked cheerfully, "Han is working so hard, is he planning to apply to Peking University or Tsinghua University?" I didn't feel like dealing with them, so I just walked right past them. I could faintly hear Su Jia's mocking laughter coming from behind me. Hard work alone is useless if you're not smart enough. The best you can hope for is to get into a teacher's college. My English grades from my previous academic year were invalidated, so I ended up attending a second-tier teacher's college, even with my English score included. My total score is still far below that of Tsinghua and Peking University. It's nowhere near good enough. I'm not as smart as Su Jia. Often, it takes me twice or even 3 times as long to fully grasp the knowledge she absorbs in half the time. Even if we had spent the same amount of time and effort on our studies back then, I still would have been playing catch-up with her. That's just how it is. Han Shuang. No matter how hard you try, 1,000 or 100 times harder, you'll never match what I get just by casually flipping through my textbook. Su Jia was hiding under her desk, painting her nails and teasing me about wasting the second youth that heaven had given me. I ignored her and wrote "hard work pays off" in a post-it note, which I stuck in the upper right corner of my desk. Tsinghua is fine. Peking University is fine too anyway. I don't believe in that bullshit about fate. To have more time to study, I applied to live on campus. After many years, my daily routine of going back and forth between work, home, and school has once again become the norm for me. Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan were also deeply and passionately in love. They have a minor argument every 2 days and a major one every 3 days. Every time they argued, Su Jia would burrow her face in her desk, sobbing and wallowing in melancholy. Then I'd look up at the sky at a 45-degree angle and sigh, listening to sad love songs over and over again. It wasn't until Song Jiangchuan brought her some chocolate to win her over that the two made up and were as close as ever. I waited until after the midterms were over, then asked my homeroom teacher to switch my seat. The homeroom teacher sighed and took out the report cards she had just received. I scanned the report card from top to bottom. I was ranked 10th, while Su Jia had dropped to beyond the 100th place. In her previous life, Su Jia had never fallen out of the top 10 in her grade, and she was always ranked ahead of me. Su Jia has been doing really poorly lately. Since you're close with her, why don't you keep your seats for now and keep an eye on her? I turned him down right away. Teacher, I've been struggling a bit with my studies lately, so I'm afraid I can't help her. I've forgotten most of what I used to know, and even though I studied like crazy before the exam, I still only came in 10th. Besides, Su Jia doesn't need my supervision at all. She wanted me to be as far away from her and Song Jiangchuan as possible. On our first day after being reborn, she had already warned me, "Don't meddle in this again. Get as far away as you can." So, when I ran into Su Jia's mom in the hallway again, I chose to remain silent. "Sorry, ma'am. I really don't know." "Why don't you ask Su Jia?" "Because of that incident, I became what Su Jia called her vicious best friend. She thought I was jealous of her and couldn't stand to see her happy. So I deliberately broke her up with Song Jiangchuan. I never imagined I'd hear the worst version of myself from the mouth of my closest, most trusted friend. We've known each other since kindergarten, and I used to think we'd be friends for life." When Mrs. Su couldn't get an answer, she still wouldn't give up. With a somewhat piercing gaze, She demanded of me. Aren't you her best friend? Don't even you know? It felt as if someone had slapped me. My cheek burned and my heart ached. I shook my head, and as soon as the elevator doors opened, I broke free from her grip and rushed out. Just as Ru Sujia had hoped, I didn't say a word this time. This isn't the first time from now on. I won't get involved in anything concerning her. Stay within your boundaries and watch from the sidelines. The main thing is respect and understanding, but I don't really care. But even though I went to such lengths, the truth about Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan's little affair eventually came out. The day after her report card came out, her parents were called in. When I went to the office to find the homeroom teacher, she was talking with Su Jia's parents. Su Jia stood beside them, nonchalantly running her fingers over her freshly painted black nails. I put down the test papers I had just collected and happened to hear her brazenly making bold claims. Don't worry. I won't let this affect my studies. Scoring 600 or 700 on the college entrance exam won't be a problem. The homeroom teacher looked at her with a slightly exasperated expression and earnestly urged her not to be overconfident. Unfortunately, Su Jia was completely unreceptive and wouldn't listen at all. Both she and I have taken the college entrance exam once, so we know the exam questions inside and out. As long as you remember the original questions and write down the answers to each one before the exam, you could even score a perfect score on the college entrance exam. I lowered my gaze, just as I was about to slip out quietly, when my homeroom teacher called out to me, "Look at your good friend Han Shuangsha's never fallen out of the top 10 in her grade. You really should learn more from her." That remark seemed to hit a nerve with Su Jia. She looked like a cat with its fur all ruffled, glaring at me with a defiant look on her face. I wasn't taking it seriously. If I had, she wouldn't even be worthy of tying my shoes. As soon as she said that, all the teachers in the office looked up at her. Her parents' expressions also changed, and Mr. Su quickly spoke up to stop her from continuing her reckless remarks. With everyone watching, Mrs. Su looked flustered and apologized to me awkwardly. "Xiao Shuang, don't take it personally. Su Jia didn't do well on her exam and is in a bad mood. You're good friends, so you should understand." I didn't say a word. I just said hello to the teacher and went back to the classroom. Before long, Su Jia burst into the classroom and swept everything off my desk onto the floor. "Why is it always you? Who do you think you are? How dare you even compare yourself to me?" She pointed at the tip of my nose as she scolded me, her eyes red and swollen as if she'd been crying. Before I even had a chance to figure out what was happening, Song Jiangchuan came running in after me. He wrapped his arms around her from behind and, for some reason, glared coldly at me. Then, in front of the whole class, he pulled Su Jia into his arms. "Su Jia, you're the only one I want in this life. Not even the King of Heaven himself could ever tear us apart." Su Jia lifted her head from his embrace and looked into his eyes. She clutched the hem of his shirt tightly and said, with determination and deep affection, "Song Jiangchuan, even if we have to face the whole world as our enemy, we'll never part. Not even in death." My classmates and I all stared blankly at their performance until the bell rang. Song Jiangchuan, with a gentle expression, took Su Jia's hand. Their fingers intertwined and ran out of the classroom. As I bent down to pick up the books scattered on the floor, I heard the students next to me whispering. Su Jia's parents pressured her to break up with Song Jiangchuan, and they even went to find Song Jiangchuan and gave him a thorough scolding. She said that if he didn't agree to break up, she'd cause a scene at his house and at his dad's company. The storyline seems to have returned to the past life, and everyone is speculating whether they'll break up. The class representative, who had been sitting silently next to me the whole time, finally stood up and told everyone to start working on the new exam. I packed up my things, holding a math test in my hand, but my mind was a bit scattered. I had originally thought that as long as I kept quiet, Su Jia wouldn't blame me, but in the end, even getting a better score than her turned out to be a mistake. In my past life, I was foolish enough to feel a twinge of guilt toward her. Looking back now, it seems utterly ridiculous. "You're wrong." Suddenly, the class representative's icy voice rang out beside me. His gaze was fixed on the problem I had just finished. After I asked my homeroom teacher to switch seats last time, I was assigned a seat next to the class representative. In my memory, this person was a genius who consistently topped the class rankings year after year, yet remained low-key and quiet. If the genius says I got it wrong, then it must be wrong. I pushed aside the jumbled feelings of distress and disappointment swirling in my mind, gathered my thoughts, and took another look at the question. The homeroom teacher hadn't shown up for class at all, and it wasn't until just before the end of class that he hurried in with a grim expression on his face. As for Su Jia, she didn't show up for the rest of the afternoon. It started raining outside around dinner time, so I walked to the cafeteria with my umbrella. As I walked past the playground, I saw a crowd gathered there. When I looked closer, I recognized Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan. They ran side by side in the rain, letting the raindrops splash against their faces. Occasionally, they would turn their heads and exchange loving glances, smiling at each other. The head of the academic affairs office stood on the sidelines holding an umbrella, scolding them with a grim expression. I heard that after they ran out of the classroom, they tried to climb over the wall to escape the school grounds, but were caught red-handed. Suddenly, Su Jia stumbled. Her left foot got tangled up with her right, and she fell to the ground. Song Jiangchuan immediately stopped in his tracks, rushed over, picked the person up in his arms, and dashed toward the infirmary. The students gathered around him, holding colorful umbrellas, and automatically made way for him. At that moment, no matter how vivid the colors were, they all became part of the backdrop, a hazy gray expanse. Some people couldn't help but whisper, "How cool and romantic. This is what youth is all about." I turned my head and looked up at the timer hanging high on the roof of the senior high school building. 80 days until the college entrance exam. White text on a red background is the only splash of color against the gray backdrop. The cool, crisp rain blew against my face, and I shivered. Pulling on his college jacket, he quickened his pace and ran toward the cafeteria, following the flow of people. During evening study hall, Su Jia still hadn't returned. I heard she had come down with a high fever after getting caught in the rain. At a time when every second counted, the homeroom teacher actually set aside half a class period to hold a class meeting. It's only a few dozen days. If you want to date, just hold off for now. Once you graduate, you can date whoever you want. Of course, if you really want to talk about it, there's nothing I can do to stop you. A flash of pity crossed her weary eyes. The future belongs to you. I hope you will take responsibility for your own future, as well as for each other's futures. The commotion caused by Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan lately has had such a big impact that many students are starting to get restless. However, with the college entrance exams approaching, the school couldn't actually expel them. It could only issue a disciplinary warning and publicly reprimand them throughout the school. During the Monday flag-raising ceremony, Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan had been missing for several days. Each held a written self-criticism and stood on the podium, with his chestnut brown hair dyed a pale yellow. Song Jiangchuan picked up the microphone with a carefree air, but he wasn't about to make a self-criticism. "Sorry to interrupt your studies. I promise I won't show off my romance in front of everyone anymore." He was the son of wealthy parents. After his parents divorced, no one kept him in line, so he spent his days getting into fights with street thugs, hanging out in bars, and racing cars. Reflecting on my mistakes has long been a regular part of my life. I don't find it embarrassing at all. If anything, I'm actually a bit proud of it. I stood in the front row, intently studying my pocket-sized collection of past mistakes, completely indifferent to the farce unfolding on stage. It wasn't until Su Jia spoke that I looked up and caught a glimpse of her and immediately froze. She was wearing makeup. Her eyelashes were thick and full, and the black eyeliner formed a graceful curve from the corners of her eyes. Her originally loose school pants had been altered to cropped length, revealing her slender, fair ankles and matching sneakers. This wasn't the first time she had spoken from the podium, but it was the first time she had read a self-criticism. She cleared her throat, looked at Song Jiangchuan, and said in front of the entire school, "I don't regret being with Song Jiangchuan. And I promise my teachers and classmates here that I will definitely get into Tsinghua or Peking University." This was the second time she had said something like that, brazenly boasting about her memories from her past life. But how could she be sure that the college entrance exam questions in this life would be exactly the same as in her past life? The flag-raising ceremony ended in a hurry, and Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan were invited to the principal's office for tea. I followed the crowd back to the classroom, and as I passed the bulletin board at the base of the academic building, I saw the newly posted posters. The results of the school's top 10 outstanding student selection have been announced. My name and photo are displayed in the most prominent spot. In her past life, that spot belonged to Su Jia. She even thought the photo looked so bad that she'd rather not have it at all. Now that her wish has come true, she started making snide remarks at my expense again. It's just one of the top 10. What's so great about that? A few days later, my photo was defaced. There was also a large poster posted next to it. The title is the daughter of a murderer also considered outstanding? I stared at that piece of paper, feeling as if I'd been plunged into an ice cellar, my whole body trembling. A lot of people were watching, and some classmates who recognized me turned to look at me. I pushed my way through the crowd, tore off that piece of paper, and found Su Jia on the rooftop, leaning against Song Jiangchuan as she snatched a cigarette from him. Did you post that? I flung the crumpled piece of paper at her face, and she screamed and hid in Song Jiangchuan's arms. Song Jiangchuan flicked away his cigarette, pulled Su Jia behind me, and pushed my shoulder. Are you tired of living? How dare you lay a hand on my woman? He was strong and didn't hold back, so he shoved me to the ground. As my palm scraped against the rough concrete floor, it throbbed and burned, the pain reaching deep into my heart. The thing about my dad is my biggest secret. No one at school knew about it except Su Jia. She had sworn never to tell anyone, no matter how bad our relationship was. I never thought she would use this to hurt me. Aren't you afraid of getting what's coming to you? I stood up, my eyes fixed intently on Su Jia, my heart feeling utterly desolate. She said that if it got out, I'd be plagued by bad luck for the rest of my life. Karma. Every word here is true. Your dad is a murderer. After all, Su Jia hid behind Song Jiangchuan, using his authority to intimidate others. In just a few seconds, her gaze shifted from one of guilt to one of determination. She looked down at me and sneered. I'm just raising a reasonable question about the results of the selecciones that not allowed. I looked at her completely unfamiliar face, unable to figure out what was wrong. In my past life, I truly regarded her as a friend, the person I trusted most and shared everything with her. Yet now, those secrets we once whispered late at night have all been laid bare in the sunlight by her, turning into sharp swords that pierce my heart. It felt like there was a wad of cotton stuck in my throat, and it took a great deal of effort for me to finally ask the question that had been weighing on my mind. Why? Su Jia looked as if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world, and she eyed me up and down with contempt. Han Shuang, you don't really think I consider you a good friend, do you? Why don't you go look in a mirror? You even deserve it. The girls watching nearby burst into laughter and gathered around her, affectionately linking their arms through hers. Someone pulled a cell phone which they'd secretly brought into school out of their pocket, turned on the front-facing camera, grabbed my hair, and forced me to look at the camera. In the photo, my complexion looks sallow. I have dark circles under my eyes, and there's a red, swollen pimple on my forehead. He was wrapped in a bulky school uniform that had been washed until it was bleached white, and his slightly coming apart canvas shoes were all crumpled. I raised my hand to resist, but they held me down tightly and insisted on using expired lipstick to put makeup on me. Su Jiao leaned against Song Jiangchuan. The sun shone gently, and a light breeze ruffled her lustrous, pear-blossom curls. She was like a divine maiden. Her gaze upon me filled with pity mixed with a touch of mockery. Don't pick on our top 10 students. Theory actually quite pitiful. Her family is very poor. Her mother works at a massage parlor, giving men foot massages to pay for her education. And she also has to apply for financial aid for students from low-income families every year. One year, when she didn't get a scholarship spot, her mom even came to the school to plead with the homeroom teacher. She knelt down in front of him in his office. I saw it with my own eyes. Song Jiangchuan lit another cigarette. He had barely taken a puff when he got a coughing fit, and he burst out laughing while coughing. Damn. That's just pathetic. Why even go to school when you're this poor? You might as well go work in a factory tightening screws. He pulled Su Jiao into his arms and kissed her cheek tenderly. Honey, stay away from her from now on. Don't let her poor sack ways rub off on you when you marry me. You're going to be the wife of a wealthy man. The henchman standing nearby laughed too, brandishing lipstick and lunging toward my face. The bell rang. And with nowhere to. I was slapped hard across the face by one of them. Don't push your luck, I'll let you go if you just put on some lipstick. I was beaten until I was dizzy and disoriented. And in a daze, I heard a furious roar. What are you doing? Everyone was startled and turned around. The homeroom teacher, the director of academic affairs, and the principal were all standing at the entrance to the rooftop. I clenched my back teeth and struggled to lift my swollen cheek, as tears rolled down the corners of my eyes. Teacher. I'm going to call the police. Su Jia's rosy complexion turned pale in an instant, and she was at a loss as to how to react to this sudden turn of events. She was lost in the carefree days of her youth, forgetting that I was no longer the fragile girl I once was. I am mature in my thinking and resilient in spirit. No amount of humiliation can break me. I will strike back at everyone who humiliates me. The door to the principal's office was tightly closed. I held my mother's hand as I said Su Jia and her parents. Apart from them, none of the other children's parents came. The police arrived as well, but since none of them were of legal age and Su Jia was still a month short of turning 18. Besides, it didn't actually cause me any harm. So they advised me to settle the matter through negotiation. I won't accept an apology. Just handle it according to the school rules. School regulations stipulate that students who verbally abuse or physically assault their classmates will, in serious cases, be placed on probation and required to be picked up by their parents for disciplinary guidance until they show remorse. Long before I went up to the rooftop to find Su Jia, I had already sent someone to call the homeroom teacher and the dean of students. If Su Jia messes with me once, she'll do it again. I still have the college entrance exam to prepare for. I don't have time to play along with her, since she doesn't want to study and just wants to date. She should go back and date to her heart's content. Su Jia's mother's face fell. The college entrance exam is just over 2 months away. Xiao Shuang. Isn't that a bit much to ask? If this causes Jia to underperform on her college entrance exams, can you take responsibility for that? She kept throwing around phrases like moral blackmail and emotional blackmail. Besides, aren't you and Jia like real sisters? You know very well that Jia loves to joke around. She didn't lay a finger on you the whole time. Even my mom, who's usually so gentle, turned serious, but I stopped her before she could say anything. Auntie, your daughter doesn't treat me like a sister, so I'd rather not get involved with her. I put on a fake smile, but my expression was very firm. If they aren't dealt with in accordance with school regulations, I will hold all of them legally accountable and file a formal complaint immediately. As soon as they heard that a case was being filed, the few people huddled in the corner looked up in terror. Song Jiangchuan clenched his fists and stepped forward, pulling Su Jia behind him to shield her. This is mainly my fault. It has nothing to do with her. If you've got the guts, take it out on me. Su Jia wasn't the least bit afraid. On the contrary, she pulled Song Jiangchuan aside and taunted me right in front of the police. Who are you trying to scare? If you want to file charges, go ahead. If you've got the guts, go ahead and throw us all in jail. Finally, even the police couldn't stand it anymore. They shouted at them and gave them a lesson on the law. The two were berated mercilessly, reluctantly accepted the school's disciplinary action, and were taken home after writing a written pledge. I walked my mom to the school gate, and she still couldn't figure it out. How did that girl, Su Jia, turn out like that? She used to seem so well-behaved and sensible. She told me to study hard and not to get too close to her in the future. Not only did I refuse to get close to her, but I couldn't wait to never see her again. I even felt a little embarrassed that I used to know her and that we used to go everywhere together, without Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan on campus. Even the air feels much fresher. It's just that I feel kind of empty inside. The air I breathed in turned into a biting cold wind inside my chest. Su Jia and I once lay in bed together, dreaming about the future. We agreed to apply to the same university and graduate together. Then we'll make money and build our careers together. And be each other's bridesmaids. Our significant others will also become good friends. And our children will become close friends just like us. In the end, we'll hold hands again, live together in a nursing home, and find a handsome old guy to dance with at the square. I once swore to be Sujia's best friend for life. She means more to me than I do. In the end, it turned out that it was all a lie, just my own wishful thinking. The void in my heart grew larger and larger as the cold wind blew. Yet on the surface, I appeared increasingly calm. My homeroom teacher told me that the school would issue an official document stating that my father's situation would not affect me. My spot on the list of the top 10 outstanding students was approved through the school's multi-level review process. So there's absolutely no issue with it. Ignoring the strange looks from my classmates, I walked back to my seat with my head held high and my chest out. The class representative, who was always hunched over his desk working on practice problems, graciously turned his head and glanced at me. His gaze lingered for a few seconds on my still swollen right cheek. Then he took a few test papers out of the desk drawer and placed them in front of me. As I stared at the test paper, which was even cleaner than my face, the chill in my heart suddenly subsided. I took a deep breath, resigned myself to the situation, and focused on the test. I had absolutely no time to think about anything else. With 40 days left until the college entrance exam, the results of the city's final joint exam were released. I scored 666 points, which was better than any score I'd ever gotten in my previous life. On the same day, Sujia also returned to school. Last weekend, as soon as I got home, Sujia's parents showed up with some health supplements they'd bought for me. They begged me to forgive Sujia and let her return to school. She stayed home for a month, but instead of studying, she found ways to sneak out every day to go on dates with Song Jiangchuan. Her parents have scolded her and hit her, but it hasn't done any good at all. Sujia even threatened them by cutting herself, using a small knife to slice her skin and leaving scars of varying depths on her arms. If they dare to force her to break up with him or cause trouble for Song Jiangchuan, she'll die right in front of them. In this lifetime, she got what she wanted in this way, becoming completely entwined with Song Jiangchuan. Xiao Shuang, please. Auntie's begging you, just let Jejia go back to school. I'll have her live on campus just like you, so she can stay far away from that guy. Mrs. Su's eyes were brimming with tears, and she looked even more haggard than she had a month ago. Actually, Sujia's family background is pretty ordinary. Her parents have been running a breakfast shop at the entrance to their residential complex for over a decade. He worked from dawn till dusk to pay for Sujia's education, giving her the very best of everything. In the past, Mrs. Su used to brag to everyone that her daughter was a top student at No. 1 high school, and she also liked to ask my mom about my grades. After learning more about it, I graciously waved my hand and asked Sujia to teach me more and help me improve my grades. In fact, deep down, she looks down on me just as much as Sujia does. She naturally thinks I'm no match for her daughter. Even now, she holds my hand with hope in her heart as we dream about the future. Once our little Shuang gets into a good college, we'll definitely treat you and your mom to a nice meal. I almost couldn't hold back my laughter, and I was glad she didn't remember her past life otherwise. It would have been really awkward. After Sujia got into Peking University in her past life and then broke up with me, Su's mom blocked me on WeChat, even though we lived right next door to each other. Whenever we ran into each other in the hallway, she never spoke to me again. In that case, let them see for themselves just how hopeless their daughter is. I agreed to their request, but on the condition that Sujia's written pledge remain posted on the bulletin board until the college entrance exams were over. The day before I went back to school, I gathered up everything in the house that had anything to do with Sujia. I had originally planned to walk her home, but when I got to her doorstep, I heard a huge commotion coming from inside. Sujia stole her family's bank card to help Song Jiangchuan save up for a motorcycle. It's just 100,000 yuan, right? Once I'm making $1 million a year, I'll pay you back 500,000 and consider the 400,000 as interest. Amid Mrs. Su's sobs and Mr. Su's scolding, she said impatiently, In her past life, she joined an investment bank after graduating from college. Her degree from a prestigious university was her ticket in. On top of that, she's beautiful and exceptionally talented. So it's no surprise that within just a few years, she was earning $1 million a year. So I don't think he'd be interested in those old things I have lying around. I turned and walked out of the apartment building. Then tossed the bag I was holding into the trash can. As soon as Su Jiao returned to school, she came straight to find me. What's the point of getting such high scores? Can you remember every single question on the college entrance exam? She rested her hands on the table, her fresh tattoo dramatically covering half her arm. The most striking feature was the initials of her name and Song Jiangchuan's. And beneath the tattoo, you can still see scratches of varying depths. Song Jiangchuan's arm ended up like this. 2. What others see as ugly, unsightly scars are, in their eyes, badges of love worth showing off. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Su Jiao leaned in closer and looked me straight in the eye, deliberately lowering her voice. We can work together. If the two of us piece together all the exam questions from memory, we can pick either Tsinghua or Peking University. It's up to us. With the college entrance exam drawing closer, she finally started to feel anxious. Unfortunately, she couldn't remember all the questions from that year's college entrance exam. So she had no choice but to come to me. I couldn't even be bothered to spare her a glance. I pulled out my English vocabulary book from the desk drawer and started looking at it. She was about to say something else when the homeroom teacher walked into the classroom. As soon as he saw her, he furrowed his brow and scolded her. Su Jia, if you're not going to study yourself, don't let it affect the other students. Su Jia rolled her eyes, sat up reluctantly, and as she was leaving, she said sarcastically to me, "Don't act all high and mighty, you'll definitely come begging me." I don't know where she got the confidence from. I never said I needed that test paper. She seemed to be the one who was more desperate, racking her brains every day over a blank sheet of paper. In 10 days, I managed to memorize half a sheet of exam questions, with questions from different subjects all jumbled together in a completely haphazard manner. She came to see me twice more during that time, but I still refused to say anything. That night, I was locked out of my dorm room, under threat from Su Jia. None of my roommates dared to open the door for me. Han Shuang, I'm sorry, but we can't mess with her boyfriend, Song Jiangchuan. Ever since Su Jia returned to school, she has been forced to live in the dormitory. Her mom insisted that we share a room, saying we could look out for each other. She does look out for me, though she comes up with new ways to drive me crazy every day. My clothes started disappearing for no apparent reason, and my face towels were covered in paint. Sometimes even the beds are damp, so we have no choice but to sleep on our desks in the classroom. When I occasionally had trouble sleeping, I'd get up to study by flashlight or gaze out at the school at 4 a.m. by moonlight. But if this goes on for a long time, it will definitely take its toll and affect my studying. So I usually eat lunch quickly and then go back to my dorm to catch up on some sleep. At lunchtime, everyone was resting in the classroom, and I thought I might run into Su Jia there. She was standing on the ladder leading to the top bunk, as if she were just about to get out of bed. And she seemed startled when she saw me. I stopped at the door and saw that she was wearing nothing but a tight-fitting spaghetti-strap nightgown. Her newly developed, youthful curves are perfectly accentuated. Her hair was tousled, her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were still glistening with tears. Following her guilty glance, I looked up and glanced at her bed. Through the loosely drawn bed curtains, I could see a boy's arm. Su Jia immediately ran down and warily blocked my view. "What are you looking at?" I acted as if nothing had happened, picked up my things, and left. In the classroom, everyone was resting their heads on their desks, while some were still furiously writing. My rock-solid desk partner had been sitting there, working through practice problems, without moving a muscle ever since I left. I sat down quietly, and just as I was about to lie down for a bit, I heard him ask, "Which school are you applying to?" She blinked a few times before it dawned on her, then said, resting her chin on her arm, "Peking University, right? In my previous life, My goal was also Peking University. This time, I want to give it one last shot. The class representative nodded and turned his gaze back to his textbook. My eyelids grew heavy, and I slowly closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep. A few days later, around noon, I saw Sujia sneaking back to the dorm alone again. Right after lunch break, word got around that the dorm supervisor had personally dragged Song Jiangchuan out of Sujia's bed. Both of them were disheveled, and Song Jiangchuan was even down to just his underwear. Many people saw them. So, with just 20 days left before the college entrance exam, they were once again asked to return home. The consequences this time are very serious. Students won't be allowed to return to school until the college entrance exams. Song Jiangchuan's father came to the school in person to take him back to their hometown in Shanghai. Su Jiao ran after the Bentley in the rain, crying as she ran. Finally, he slumped to the ground and let the rain soak him through and through, just like the heroine in a young adult novel. A few days later, my homeroom teacher asked me privately again if I knew where Su Jiao was. After she was brought home, she ran away from home while still running a high fever, and has been missing for 2 days. I remembered the post Su Jia shared this morning. The accompanying photo shows her sitting behind Song Jiangchuan on his motorcycle, beaming with a radiant smile. Behind them was a huge concert poster. That's the singer Su Jia and I have loved since middle school, and tomorrow he's giving his first ever concert in Shanghai. We used to listen to his songs, each with one earbud, and promised each other that after graduation, we'd save up together to go to his concert. But I didn't mention any of this to my homeroom teacher. I went to the dorm supervisor to report her because she picked a fight with me first, to avoid disrupting my studies. I had no choice but to get rid of him. She hasn't done anything to upset me, so I still respect her decision. However, after the teacher asked around, she found out that the girl had run off to Shanghai. Unfortunately, before her parents could bring him back, she and Song Jiangchuan were both involved in a car accident. After the concert, they went for a high-speed drive and crashed down a hillside on the mountain road. Fortunately, the grass and trees cushioned the fall, so he suffered only a minor fracture and a few scrapes. However, Su Jia's chin was scraped by a tree branch, leaving a long scar. Whether you can make a full recovery depends on luck. Otherwise, you'll have to spend a fortune on plastic surgery. When I went home to get a change of clothes, I heard her making a huge fuss at home. Finally, Song Jiangchuan arrived and swore in front of her parents that he would never abandon her. It's you as a person that I love. No matter what you become, you'll always be the most beautiful in my eyes. Su Jiao finally managed to smile through her tears and returned to school, wearing a mask. During the final 10 days before the college entrance exam, she walked arm in arm with Song Jiangchuan, head held high and chest puffed out, like a general who had just won a battle. Her close friend calls her sister Jai and admires her courage to chase love across 1,000 miles. She smiled smugly. Youth is meant for going wild. Unlike some people who just bury their noses in books, it's incredibly boring. Yeah. I'd rather die than date a woman like Thatch, so fucking repulsive. Some people even chimed in, huddling together and laughing lewdly. I walked past, pretending not to hear their veiled insults. But Su Jia's minions caught up with me halfway there. Without a word, they dragged me to a rented apartment 200 meters away from the school. Su Jia was sitting on the couch, while Song Jiangchuan was playing video games in the bedroom. The room is full of the warmth of daily life. It looks like someone has been living there for a while. They actually started living together without telling anyone. Once it was just Su Jia and me in the living room. She simply placed a piece of paper and a pen on the coffee table. Either write the exam questions right now, or we'll all be locked up together until the college entrance exams are over and no one will be able to sleep. She couldn't even be bothered to put on a front anymore. With a cigarette clamped between her fingers, she looked just like a street thug. That girl, hidden deep in my memory, gentle and radiant as the morning Sunni can no longer find even a trace of her. I gave a sarcastic little smile, sat down on the edge of the couch, and picked up my pen to write down all the questions. Su Jia has always been a natural at schoolwork. She never keeps a collection of her mistakes, she just throws them away after working on them. Unlike may have more than 10 volumes of my collection of wrong answers. And I've even organized all my college entrance exam questions. Those exam questions she couldn't remember no matter how hard she racked her brain. I've gone over them countless times in my mind. In less than 2 hours. I had recited from memory all the exam questions from every subject on my college entrance exam in my previous life. I thought you were so high and mighty, but it turns out you've known it by heart for ages. Su Jia read through it slowly, revealing a contemptuous smile that suggested she had already guessed as much. Seeing how confident she looked, I didn't argue with her. I put down my pen and left. As she looked at the title I had written, her smile grew even more wild. Naturally, he didn't see me smiling slightly and shaking my head. Su Jia, you really have only yourself to blame for ending up in this situation. After that, I don't know how Su Jia convinced Song Jiangchuan, but he actually believed that this was a college entrance exam question. In the final few days, the two of them clung to those few sheets of paper with the answers already written on them and tried desperately to memorize them by heart. It wasn't until the very moment she walked into the college entrance exam room that Su Jia put away those crumpled pieces of paper with a sense of satisfaction. Tian, Han Shuang, once I get into Tsinghua or Peking University, if we end up being alumni of the same school, we can still be friends. I smiled at her, took a deep breath, and walked into the exam room. The first exam was in Chinese. I opened the test and looked at the first question. He paused for a moment, then forced a smile. The 2 days of exams flew by as if in a dream. I walked into the classroom, and Su Jia immediately rushed over like a madwoman and grabbed my shoulders. Why? Why is it different? How could that be? Her face was filled with disbelief as she questioned me over and over again. The college entrance exam was completely different from what she had studied for in her previous life. She had memorized it all for nothing. I watched calmly as she lost her mind, watching the pride in her eyes shatter piece by piece. You knew all along, didn't you? Why didn't you warn me? Realizing she wouldn't get any answers, she started coming up with conspiracy theories again. Just like before, whenever the outcome isn't what she wants. It's my fault. You're the one who told me to get as far away as possible and stop meddling. I pushed her hand away with a mocking smile and fired back with her own words. Besides, who am I? Anyway, you're so much better than Mui. Should you listen to me? Although I don't believe in fate, I do believe in cause and effect. As you sow, so shall you reap. She hasn't taken any practice tests seriously since she was reborn. But I have. The practice test the teacher gave us has changed. I don't remember many of the questions or question types from my past life. Destiny, just like our rebirth, is changing little by little. The current situation is entirely the result of her own choices. Su Jia froze in her tracks, staring at me with wide eyes. I don't know if I'm just thinking that the glory of a past life has ultimately come to nothing. I can't help but think that all the promises I made back then have turned into a joke. I tidied up my desk and walked out of the classroom. White sheets of paper fell from the roof like snowflakes. The boys were like the wind, chasing each other and shouting as they whizzed past me. The countdown to the college entrance exam has reached 0. Yet at this very moment, youth comes alive. I went home, changed out of my school uniform, put on a skirt, did my makeup, and went out to hang out with my new friends all night long. The very next day, I boarded a train to Dali, and then traveled north along the Yunnan-Tibet Railway. Spending a month exploring the area, I saw Su Jia again at my college entrance celebration. She sat next to her parents, wearing no makeup, looking once again like the well-behaved daughter she used to be. When my mom pulled me over to toast the guests, Mrs. Su and Mr. Su looked embarrassed and awkward. I can still vividly recall the moment when they first said they'd treat us to a big meal, and now, instead, they've ended up eating at my table first. I scored 690 on the college entrance exam. I wasn't the top scorer, but it was enough to get into Peking University. As for Su Jia, I've heard she didn't even qualify for a junior college and is planning to retake the entrance exams. But she was simply too well known at her alma mater. So not a single teacher there was willing to take her on. Both she and Song Jiangchuan are currently trying to figure out how to transfer to another school. Xiao Shuang has been down-to-earth and hardworking ever since she was little. I just knew you'd get into a good school. Not like that, L. Little brat in our family. There was genuine envy in Mrs. Sue's eyes. She took a thick red envelope out of her bag and pressed it into my hand. Since school hasn't started yet, could you give Jia some extra lessons? We'll pay you the going rate. I looked at Jia, still holding the red envelope, thinking she would fly into a rage just like before. Instead of getting angry, her eyes immediately welled up with tears, and her voice choked with emotion. Shuang Shuang. She called me by my old name and gently clasped my hand. I know I was wrong. For the sake of how close we used to be, will you please help me? She looked at me with pleading eyes. On the surface, she seemed pitiful, but deep in her eyes lay a profound sense of resentment. On the day the college entrance exam results were released, some genius posted a video of Su Jia promising to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. That video is now going viral on the school's website, drawing a fresh wave of ridicule every day. Shuang Shuang. I swear I'll really study hard this time. I want to get into Peking University too. And then we can study and eat together again. Su Jia held my hand, made many promises to me, and shared many dreams with me. She's a master at being cute. She can wrap people around her finger, making them repeatedly give in to her. I've always been a sucker for her, so I let her have me come and go as she pleased. Unfortunately, just hearing those words makes me feel sick now, so I immediately handed the red envelope back to her mother. Sorry. I'm busy. My teacher asked me to go to school early to work on a research project. You're so smart you could probably become the top student in the province just by studying on your own. Right. Su Jia's expression changed instantly. She violently shook off my hand, her face contorted with rage. What's there to be so cocky about? You're just luckier than new hats with the attitude. Only a loser like you would study for so long and still fail to come in first. Do you dare to make a bet that if I really do come in first, you'll kneel down and kowtow to me? The guests saw this and began whispering among themselves, their eyes full of derision. Not a single one of them believed a word she said. Everyone knows that the Su family's daughter doesn't study hard, she just likes to hang out with strangers and get into all sorts of trouble. Amid the gossip, Mom and Dad Su didn't dare lift their heads and dragged Su Jia away, looking thoroughly humiliated. After that day, Su's mother spent a fortune hiring private tutors to help her catch up, but ended up driving 4 of them away in less than a week. On Qixi Day, she even skipped class to go with Song Jiangchuan to a temple to pray for a romantic partner and academic success. It seems she puts more faith in Buddha than in studying hard. That night, I deleted all of Su Jia's contact information, including her parents, before school started. I took my mom with me to Beijing. On orientation day, I met the class representative at the new student registration desk. Hey, didn't you go to Tsinghua University? In his previous life, he was the top student in the province, but after enrolling at Tsinghua University, he lost touch with his classmates. I only occasionally hear from others that he's really talented, stayed on as a faculty member right after finishing his Ph.D. Of course, he was still the top student in this life. It's just that he went to Peking University instead of Tsinghua. His eyes flickered. My score, pick whatever you want. I was taken aback for a moment, but after thinking about it, I realized it made sense. He's both talented and hardworking no matter what he chooses. It's perfectly reasonable. As for those who think too highly of themselves but refuse to work hard, they don't even have a choice. The following year, Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan still failed to get into college. In the end, Song Jiangchuan was admitted to a private junior college thanks to his father's money. Su Jia still couldn't accept it, so she decided to take another year to prepare for the college entrance exam. As it turned out, she became pregnant while preparing to retake the exam, so her plans to retake it fell through. After that, I rarely heard anything about them. It wasn't until a class reunion several years later that a classmate who had returned to our alma mater to teach mentioned them. Song Jiangchuan had a daughter, but his parents wouldn't even let him in the door. Love is bullshit, it's worthless in the eyes of the rich. That was several years ago, wasn't it? I heard that Song Jiangchuan later cheated on Su Jia and found someone even younger and prettier behind her back. He's still seeing his mistress. I heard his family is on the verge of bankruptcy and owes the bank a fortune. Everyone chimed in, piecing together the fragmented lives of Su Jia and Song Jiangchuan. I didn't say a word the whole time, and once everyone had finished eating, I quietly slipped out to pay the bill. As I was heading back to the private room, a familiar voice called out to me. Could tell it was Su Jia. She came to the class reunion, but didn't go inside. Instead, she stepped out from a corner and stopped right in front of me. She didn't seem to be doing very well. Her hair was dry, and she was dressed in cheap clothes. Even in the summer, he wears long sleeves, completely covering the tattoos on his arms. A long time ago, we promised each other that whoever got rich first would be responsible for supporting the other as a slacker. Now that I've become a top-tier lawyer, I have the means to support her. But between us, it's no longer a relationship where we can rely on each other. Han Shuang. I heard you've become a lawyer. Su Jia pursed her lips and gave me a slightly awkward smile. When she smiled, the scar on her chin became even more noticeable. I'd like to consult with you about a divorce. If we're talking about work. I interrupted her and handed her a business card. Here's my assistant's business card. You can contact her to schedule an appointment. Su Jia paused for a moment, then sheepishly took the business card and thanked me. The atmosphere was a little awkward. I nodded distantly, didn't invite her into the private room, and walked right past her. As I was heading toward the private room, she called me back again. After a long silence, she asked if I had made the same choice as you back then, would things be different now? By the time she asked the question, she already knew the answer. But her youth is behind her, and one cannot be young again. She no longer has the chance to make a different choice. I didn't answer her. I just went into the room on my own. The door opened, and someone inside shouted. He played a great hand and blew it. Serves him right. In the end, Su Jia never came to me again to discuss her divorce. She asked my assistant and found out that my consultation fee is 30,000 per hour. Then, one day later on, I went to a concert. A client who has known for many years that I'm a big fan of a certain popular singer gave me 2 VIP tickets. That evening, I was sitting in the seat with the best view, and the seat next to me was empty. The camera pans across the room as everyone hugs each other tightly and screams with abandon. I listened quietly to the pop songs that were all the rage 10 years ago. Deep in my memory, the endless test papers, the endless vocabulary words, and the endless exams have all turned into a sea of gold. That was my youth, neither dramatic nor hysterical. I am diligent and down-to-earth. I've taken things one step at a time, and my hard work has earned me everything I wanted.